friends, and welcome to another episode of the Woldenburn podcast. My name is Emily, and I'm coming to you from Tennessee, where I live with my wonderful husband Micah and our beautiful, beautiful little baby boy. Apologies if I look a little bit flushed or, warm. I just got back from taking a morning walk with baby Tam, and it is very humid in Tennessee right now. It is proper summer weather. And so even though it's only 7:57, 8 o'clock, it's very warm outside already. So anyway, baby is sleeping. There's a whole saga to his sleeping happening right now. So I am crossing my fingers and hoping and praying that he's going to stay asleep for the next, 30-ish minutes at least. Hopefully, so that I can film this podcast, but it is possible that if he wakes up, I may have to jump up and finish this later. So, fair warning. Yeah, how have you all been? How have you been doing? It's been a June. If you watched my last video, you'll know that we've got some big changes coming up. I'll talk about it a little bit later, but possibility of moving and buying a house and all of that. So there's been that, and then baby Tam's sleep has been horrendous, just to put it mildly. So it's just been kind of a struggle a lot. It's just been a rough June. For me, sort of, not really mentally, emotionally, it's more so physically, just exhausted all the time. So I haven't been able to do as many videos as I would have liked. I haven't been able to do quite as much knitting as I would have liked. But such is life. There are seasons, and there are seasons where we're able to get loads of knitting done, and there are seasons where we're hardly able to make a single stitch. And that's okay. However, that all being said, I do have 2 finished objects to share with you today, which I'm very excited about. Let me get a sip of my red raspberry tea real quick. That's the other thing with being outside and stuff, where it's so hot. So I'm thirsty all the time. So we're going to start with the slightly less exciting finished object. Still quite exciting. I have finally finished one of the pairs of socks that I have been knitting. If you watched my last podcast episode, you'll know that I have 1 million socks on the needle at the moment. Rough estimate of about 5 different sock projects, which feels like 1 million. But I have finally finished one pair, and this is the pair of socks that I was knitting as part of a little mini knit along with Stephanie of Texas Peach Knits, and she and I had both purchased this Patton's Croy Midnight Orchid colorway, and so we were both planning to make socks with it, and we decided to kind of knit them at the same time. And Stephanie is knitting a beautiful, beautiful pattern sock. It's from a knitting book. You should watch her podcast, and she talks all about it, but it's really lovely. She's paired this self-striping yarn with another dark purple yarn, and it just looks so beautiful. I just did a basic vanilla sock. I made a few changes to it, which I'll talk about in a second. I don't block my socks, ever. The only time that I do is if I'm test knitting and it's a lace pattern or something, and you really want to block it to get the lace to kind of open up. The rest of the time, I just finish them and wear them because they're going on my feet, and I don't feel the need to make them particularly, pretty. That being said, I would love it if I could get a sock blocker just so that I could show the socks better on the podcast, because that is one thing where when podcasters have the sock blocker, they look so pristine and nice when they're sharing them. So that is one thing that I would really like to have a sock blocker for, but so far I haven't had enough of a desire to justify spending part of my crafting budget on sock blockers. Anyway, so socks. This is, like I said, it's knit out of the Patton's Croy sock yarn in the Midnight Orchid colorway, and I made a few changes to my standard sock knitting recipe. Usually I would do my socks on a US size 1 or 2.25 millimeter needle over 56 stitches. That's kind of been my recipe for the last really long time. I decided to kind of change things up with all of these socks that I'm knitting. I wanted to do some experimenting to try and find maybe a slightly better fitting sock recipe, because my standard sock recipe works quite well, but I feel like it kind of stretches the fabric. I want the fabric to be a little bit denser so they're a little bit more like ready to wear socks. And the let me think. That's the main thing, honestly. It's just that I like the thicker, sturdier feeling fabric. So if you're not familiar with Patton's Croy sock yarn, it is definitely a much thicker yarn. I would almost consider it a sport weight, honestly. It is about, I can't remember the exact number, and I don't have the ball band with me, but it's around 185 yards per 50 grams, which is definitely on the sport weight side of things rather than fingering weight. However, it has created the squishiest, thickest, coziest pair of socks, and part of that is I knit these on a US size 0, which I believe is a 2 millimeter. I can actually check that. Yes, 2 millimeter. A 2 millimeter needle over 60 stitches. And I love the fabric. It is so nice and squishy, and it just has such an elasticity to it. And I know that most of that is because this is Patton Croy's sock yarn. Because I knit another pair of socks at the same time on just some of my hand-dyed superwash merino nylon yarn with the same needles and stitch count, and it's definitely looser, but I like how it fits. So that's what I did for this. And then the other change that I did, if you hadn't noticed, this kind of wonky looking heel. Normally I am very much a heel flap and gusset sort of a knitting person, but I wanted to kind of branch out a little bit because sometimes heel flaps and gussets, they're just a little bit annoying. They're not as fun. They're probably my least favorite part of the sock knitting process, just because you have to knit the heel flap and then you have to pick up all the stitches and they have to decrease for the gusset. They work beautifully. They're probably one of the best fitting heels out there for a lot of people. However, I wanted to try some other things, so I decided to try out a shadow wrap heel, and I love it. It fits quite well, and it was so fast and easy. I'm going to try it a few more times on some other socks and different sock yarns and see what I think. But I have a feeling that heel flap and gusset is going to have some competition with the shadow wrap heel, because it's a short row heel and it's just so easy. And the reason why I have kind of avoided short row heels is because I feel like they were kind of too small for my heel. With this one, what I did is because typically the way that it works is you work back and forth working short rows, decreasing, and then work back and forth working short rows, increasing. And I just decreased down to, I think, 12 stitches, which was more, probably like 2 to 4 more stitches than I usually have done in the past for short row heels, and it fits so nicely. It's basically like a store-bought sock heel, and again, I know that a big part of that is this yarn, because this yarn is thicker, so it's just automatically giving it more room. But I also did the shadow wrap heel on my other pair of socks. I think I have the other one in here. I can't remember if it was a half-finished object the last time, but if I have it in here, I'll show it to you in a second. I did the same thing on the shadow wrap heel on that one, and it fits really well too. So we might be branching out and trying some more and doing different heels. But overall, I am just absolutely thrilled with these, and I purposefully tried to basically match them. I don't know what it was, but after I got done with the heel, if you see on this sock, there's a little strip of white between these two. For whatever reason, that row of white did not show up, and I don't know if maybe I didn't count rows at all. I just kind of was like, okay, I need to knit this color stripe and this color stripe and this color stripe and just did that way for the second sock. So I don't know if maybe I did like one row extra before starting the heel on this one or something. I don't know. It doesn't bother me. But yeah, and I do have a bit of leftovers, not a ton, but I think because I have a few other colors of Patton's Croy sock yarn. I got it when Hobby Lobby was clearancing out all of their Patton's Croy sock yarn, so I got it all on a really good discount. So I got several other colors, and I have this much left. I haven't weighed it, but I have a feeling that this would be enough to make like a scrappy pair of socks paired with some of my other Patton's Croy sock yarn. So I'm excited about that. I'm going to try that at some point, but I need to get these out of my sock bag because I don't really have any proper project bags. I actually that is one of the things that I have been itching to sew for myself. I watch Amy of Noble Character Crafts, and I watch several other podcasters, but specifically Amy. She has handmade several of her project bags, and they're so beautiful. There's one that's got like quilting, kind of scrappy quilting details on it, and I just love it. And then Holly of Mystery Mouse Knitting, on her most recent podcast, she shared a project bag that she had made for herself, and it's got the English paper piecing hexagons on it, and I love doing that, the hexagon English paper piecing thing, and it looks so good. And she shared it on, I've seen it before, I think, on one of her previous episodes, but she just shared it on her most recent one, and I was reminded of it, and I just need to make myself one. But again, time, it's just lacking. When you're a mother with a very busy, active, walking baby going everywhere and teething and not sleeping, time is difficult. It's difficult to sit down and try and figure out like a scrappy, quilty, complicated sort of a project bag. So I just haven't gotten to it. But I have several just sort of random like canvas tote bags, and that's mainly what I use for my project bags. And I had, because I was traveling in May, I had 4 different sock projects in here, and it's just been kind of a yarn ball mess. So that project is done. So now I only have, well, counting my husband's socks, 4 sock projects on the needle. So let me see here. Okay, yes, I do. This is the other sock. Let me just share it with you quickly. Again, I can't remember if this one was done last time or not, but this is the other one that I also did the shadow wrap heel on. And this is in just a basic, like I said, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, sort of sock yarn. And I actually, if you look at it, you can see the difference in the stitch sizes. That this yarn is much, much thicker. So this is also, this was in my Red Wall Flowers mini skein collection, and I love it. And I've started the second one, but I've only just done the cuff because I was focusing on those socks. So this is a half-finished object, and did I have another half-finished object? No, I didn't. It was just this one. So there's that. Now, for the most exciting finished object. It's inside out, so it looks kind of ridiculous at the moment, but I have a Fosette. I have finally finished a sweater. It has been so long since I've finished a sweater, and oh, this one is so beautiful. Now, as you may know, if you watch other videos on my channel, I've been doing a little video series. I'm calling them my Fosette diaries, and I've kind of been talking about the whole process of knitting the sweater. So again, I'm not going to go into crazy detail on here because I'm hoping, if Baby Tam cooperates, I'm hoping to film the final episode of that series after I finish filming this podcast. But oh, I love it. I love it so much. It's just perfect. I had my husband take a couple pictures of me in it this morning, so I'll pop one up here. And I just, I love it so much. It's so perfect. This is the Fosette crop pattern by Devin of Knitty McPurly, and it's a wonderful, wonderful pattern. It's got all kinds of like mosaic color work and stranded color work, and then this beautiful, my favorite part is this textured panel. I just love how that looks. I'm half tempted to make a sweater, like just to find a basic stockinette sweater and just do the whole thing in this textured stitch pattern because I love it. But yeah, it's so amazing. All of the ends except for, I have 2 ends left to weave in. I blocked it yesterday and I left the last 3 ends at the bottom unwoven in because when I first finished it, this ribbing at the bottom kept flipping up and I was a little bit worried that I was going to need to rip it out and redo it, but after blocking it's fine. So that's why I left the last 3 ends unwoven in, just in case I needed to rip something out. I didn't want to have those, like the cast off end woven in and everything. But I have gotten all the millions of other ends woven in. Yeah, I knit the 4th size. I used US size 4 needles for the ribbing, 6 for the main portion of the body, and I used 2 of my hand-dyed yarns, and then this teal colorway is a Barocco Vintage Baby in the, is it the Mallard colorway? I can't remember for sure. If I can find the ball band, I'll put it on the screen, or in the description box. But yeah, I love it. There will be more details in my final Fosette diary video, but it is amazing and I want to knit more, very, very much so. Yeah, so those are my finished objects. Let's talk about some whips. Okay, as I mentioned, I have cast on my second Red Wallflowers scrappy sock, but it's just a cuff, so nothing interesting about that. Then I still am working away on my seated rib stitch sock, which is a, I just picked the stitch from my knitting stitch dictionary and plugged it into my sock recipe, and this one is another US size 1 needles over 56 stitches, and I love how this is looking. It's a little slow going, just because it's the rib stitch, and I don't know what it is. I always find that rib socks take me so much longer than just a regular vanilla sock. But yeah, I've been really enjoying it, and I'll do a row here and there, and it's just slowly growing, and that's okay. It's a slower work in progress. The yarn that I am using is the Barocco Vintage Sock, which has a very interesting fiber makeup. It is 52% acrylic, 40% wool, and 8% nylon. This is the rhubarb colorway. And I really like it. I've knit a pair of socks for my husband out of this, as you will know if you've watched previous episodes. And they've been wearing really well. They've been doing fantastic. So far I'm a big fan of this. It works really well. The colors are just beautiful. They have a subtle variation to them, which I love so much. If I had more in my yarn budget, I would buy enough of this to make a sweater because I feel like it would make just the coziest sweater. It's very soft. It says, I believe it's machine washable. It says that it needs to be laid flat to dry, which is really interesting to me because I do actually have a label here. Yes, my yarn and my Fosette was the Mallard colorway. The Barocco Vintage Baby, which is also, it's the exact same makeup, 52% acrylic, 40% wool, 8% nylon. It says that you can machine wash in cold water, gentle cycle, tumble dry on low. Which makes me think that you could toss these in the dryer just fine because it's the exact same blend. I don't understand why there would be a difference, but you know, I haven't experimented with it yet because I don't actually put, I wash all of my hand knit socks in the washing machine. I put them in a lingerie bag, zip that up and throw it in the wash, but then I air dry them. I've never put them in the dryer, at least not intentionally. I don't think I've ever run, maybe a while ago I accidentally ran like just standard superwash sock yarn through the dryer, and it was fine. But I just know that for all clothes in general, line drying is actually better for them because it's less harsh on the fibers. But particularly, I think hand knit things, I put them in a lingerie bag in the washing machine, so it's very easy to just grab that out and hang the socks up. So that's what I do. But anyway, back to socks. So like I said, I've been slowly plugging away at these. These I am knitting on the Haya Sharps knitting needles, which I really like. I love how sharp the points are. That's so nice. I need to try knitting with some Chiagu sock needles because those are the only sock needles that I haven't tried yet. I've tried just your basic, I was about to say grocery store, basic craft store cheap metal needles. I've used the Licca needles, and I've used now the Haya Sharps needles. I think those are the main ones. I know that there's the Addy needles. So I haven't tried Addy or Chiagu for socks. I really, really like the wood of the Licca needles, if you can see that at all. But the points aren't super sharp. I do love a nice sharp point, but the majority of my needles are wood, and so I found that I've just really gotten acclimated to wood needles. I do have a pair of the Clover bamboo needles for socks, and I do actually really like those. So I only have the one that's like a 40 something inch one that I use for knitting 2 at a time socks. So I really should probably get one of the smaller size circular needles and try that out and see how I like those. That's all for that one. And then the last sock project that I have in here, like I said, I am working on a pair of socks for my husband, but we're not going to talk about those today because I've hardly been able to work on them. I've just started the heel on them, but they're basic shorty vanilla socks, so they're not that interesting. This is the last sock project I have on the needles for myself, and this is again back on my standard sock recipe, which is 56 stitches US size 1 needles, and I'm knitting these on my Licca double pointed needles, which were a gift from a beautiful and wonderful viewer, and I really like them. They're very nice. I have noticed that they are shorter than my other knitting needles, and I prefer, or my other DPNs. I really enjoy knitting socks with DPNs. There's just something about it that just feels very nice. I very much enjoy it. But I've noticed something that a lot of times when people talk about they knit socks with DPNs, they use 4 needles with live stitches on them and then the 5th needle to knit. I only use 4. So if you look at this, I meant to show you this last time. That is how I have my stitches split. I have half of the stitches on here and then a quarter and a quarter of the stitches on those two. And I really like it because that way the way that I can hold my hands, I don't have the stitches aren't as separated and split up. That's how I've always done it. I didn't realize that, you know, technically you might be supposed to use 4 needles. I always wondered why there were 5 needles in the packets you get of double pointed needles, but I never use all 5. Excuse me. So that's how I do it. That being said, because these are just a little bit shorter than my than the cheap ones, they're about an inch shorter than the inexpensive knit DPNs that I got from like Joann's and Michael's over the years. It does mean that this one side of the sock where I've got, you know, the 28 stitches for the half of the sock, I have to watch it because sometimes it gets a little bit close to the stitches coming off, but I still really like them. They feel really nice, and yeah, they're nice to knit with. The yarn that I am using is a beautiful opal sock yarn, which is from the Van Gogh collection. And I had the label somewhere. I think it's over there. But this is it. And I got this from my local yarn store. I can't remember now if this one was one that I got at Black Friday or if this was, I think that's what it was. I got it at Black Friday last year when they were doing the sale. And I had been wanting to try some opal sock yarn for a while because I watch Anna of the Anna Knitter podcast, and she talks about opal sock yarn all the time. And I've been wanting to try it because it is a much more like sort of rustic-y feeling commercial sock yarn, and I really like that for my socks. I honestly like the kind of harder wearing, rustic, rougher wool for my socks. It's just, they last so much better. So, yeah, that. And that one's just another basic vanilla sock. So, which is actually really nice because this sock has some color striping and stuff that I have to pay attention to, especially right at the beginning. And then the other one is my ribbed stitch sock. And so it is actually really nice to also have just a plain vanilla sock on the needles because I don't have to worry about it. I can just pick it up and knit, 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 knit. So that's all my sock projects. And then the last working project that I have, the last active working project, I do technically have 2 other whips. I have a baby cardigan and my festival sweater that I just need to finish the sleeves on that, but I can't wear a heavy DK weight sweater in the middle of the summer. Not that I can wear my Fosette in the middle of Tennessee summer either. That is very much a fall, winter, spring sort of a thing. But I'll get back to the festival sweater eventually. I am knitting a Tolsta tee, which I have been wanting to cast on for a while. And I finally did. Let me actually trim this extra yarn so I can show it to you better. I watch the Fruitful Hands Knitting Podcast, which is a fantastic knitting podcast. It's a mother and daughter duo, and it's Diana and Kaity, and honestly, they are one of my favorite knitting podcasts. I'm not usually a huge fan of podcasts where there's more than one person. I don't know what it is, but I feel like I don't know what it is. I just don't watch very many where there's more than one person. It's just kind of jarring or something. I'm not sure. However, Kaity and Diana are just so sweet, and I love the relationship that they have, and I love watching them and the projects that they talk about. One of my favorite podcasts currently, the only like multiple person podcast that I watch. And they mentioned that they were starting they're doing like a little sort of mini knit along where they're knitting the Tolsta tee, which if you're not familiar is a pattern by Rebecca of the Creabea podcast. And it's a fantastic basic summer shirt. I'll pop a picture up so that you can see what it looks like. And it's just a really simple classic raglan. It's supposed to be sort of a blank slate pattern where you can kind of plug in whatever you want into the basic simplicity of the pattern. And I tried to test knit it. I didn't get into it, but I was able to see all of like the yarn details and the sizing details. So I ordered some Drops Bell yarn off of Etsy from Sun Yarn Studio, which I love. I highly, highly recommend. They have a free shipping over purchases of I think $35. I think that's what it was. And it's from overseas. I think it's from like Lithuania or something like that. But it comes fairly quickly. It takes a couple weeks, but that's not a big deal. And each ball is about $3.50 a piece for the Drops Bell, and they have a bunch of drops yarn in there. I think they have some Senna's Garden yarn in there, and then they've got some Licca needles and stuff. Like, they got random stuff, but it's mostly the drops yarn that I look at. And I purchased their Drops Fable, which is their sock yarn, last year. So far I've had a fantastic experience with them. That's great. It comes quickly. The prices are good. And the shipping's really inexpensive or free. So I immediately ordered yarn for a Tolsta. And then the pattern came out in May, but I was traveling, so I didn't get to it. And then Kaity and Diana of the Fruitful Hands podcast mentioned that they were planning to knit it, and they're doing a knit along. And I was just like, this is perfect timing. So I cast it on June 16th, which was their official like cast on date. And here's what we're looking at. So I am knitting this in 3 colors. Let me see, where's my beginning of the round? There we go. I think it goes like this. I think this is the front part. Like, obviously there's not really that much to see right now because I'm just working on the yoke portion where I'm doing the raglan increases, and then eventually I split for the sleeves at some point. I am knitting the 4th size. I was going to try and do what Rebecca mentioned that she had done, where to cast on slightly fewer stitches so that the neckline was a little bit less open, but I was working on it and I realized that I thought that the number I had circled, because I go through it and I printed out my pattern. Do I have it in here? Well, I can't really show it to you, but I printed out my pattern, and I thought for the cast on stitches, I thought I had underlined the size 3, or the size, I thought I had underlined the size 4 stitch count. So I did 1 size less than that because I wanted to do slightly fewer stitches. And then I realized that I had actually underlined the size 5 cast on stitches, and I had cast on for the size 4, and I was like, I'm not ripping it out, I'm just gonna leave it as is, and then for my next one I can do slightly fewer stitches, and all that does is just brings the neckline in a little bit more. I'm actually kind of curious. I think I might be able to pop this on, maybe. There we go. You can't really see anything. I need to get some of those pony bead cords. Oh, I'm so excited about this. Oh, I definitely messed up my hair. It's fine. It's fine. But yeah, so that's what we're working on. Let's see if we can fix this. It's good enough. You're not here for my hairdo. So I'm knitting this in Dotspell, which is it's like a linen viscose blend. Cotton, viscose, and linen. So 53% cotton, 33% viscose, and 14% linen. And it's 50 gram balls, 131 yards per 50 gram ball. And I have it in 3 colors because I am planning to, you can see it because I've done my first color change. I'm doing this slip stitch detail between each color stripe, which is what I did on my Red Wallflowers sock, and I'm so enjoying it. Right now it's just sort of a mindless knitting, knit around, increase round, knit around, increase round. So it's very, very simple. The colors I chose this is color 4, which I believe is Dandelion, and then this is color 16, which I think is Mauve, and then this one, let me see, is color 15, which I think is Jeans Blue. I think that's what this color is. But yeah, I'm very much enjoying it. It's been such a pleasant knit. I went down a needle size. I believe the pattern calls for a size 6 for the ribbing and the size 8 for the main body. I just went ahead and went down a size. I didn't swatch. I use a size 5 for the ribbing, and I'm using a size 7 for the body. I just have found that I'm a far looser knitter than I thought that I was. So for almost any pattern, I automatically go down a needle size, and so far it has served me very well. I'm actually far enough now that I can measure my gauge and see if I'm super on gauge or super off gauge, but I fly by the seat of my pants sometimes. I have so little knitting time that I don't really want to spend a ton of time knitting a swatch. And this is supposed to be just kind of like a drapey, it's not a super fitted top. And for things that aren't supposed to be super fitted, I'm okay just kind of winging it. And also the thing is too, I've been knitting long enough that I kind of have an idea for how the fabric will look. And the other part of it too is a lot of times what I do is I will eyeball it, knit a bit, and then measure my gauge, and it's spot on. So I'm not too fussed about it. But yeah, so I'm knitting the 4th size and absolutely loving it. I can't wait to get more of this yellow in here. It's a very, very springy color palette for this one. Yes, so that is all that I have in the way of knitting. And honestly, just crafting overall. Because let's be honest, I haven't done like any sort of other crafting other than knitting. So I had a couple things that I want to talk about. Sort of, I guess this is going to be like a little miscellaneous section. First off, a podcast recommendation. I found a new to me podcast. It is by Meagan. She also got her Instagram and YouTube handle is Wool and Cottonwoods. If you say it too fast, it sounds like you're saying woolen, but it's Wool and Cottonwoods. And she has the Hey Mom podcast, and I love it so much. I think she has 4 episodes out right now, and it's just so good. She lives in Canada, and it's sad but sweet at the same time. Her mom sadly passed away earlier in the year, and before that she and her mom would just talk about all of their crafting projects back and forth, and they would talk on the phone for hours and hours about all of the things that they've been working on and what they've been doing. And so when her mom passed away, she didn't have her there to talk to anymore, and so she started her podcast as a way to continue sharing her projects. And I think that's so sweet and so sad and just lovely. I highly recommend it. I'll have her channel linked down below. I've been very much enjoying it. So there's that. And then this is a little bit of a random thing. For Mother's Day, I was going to purchase an apron for myself from a Etsy shop of one of my long time viewers, like pre-Woldenburn, back before when I was doing my other podcast channel and my hand-dyed yarn company. Sarah, I believe... she has a blog and she has an Etsy shop, and one is like Lilacs in Spring and one is like Lilacs in Springtime. I'll have it on the screen, the name of her Etsy shop, and I'll have her blog and Etsy shop linked in the description box below. She sells beautiful, just simple, vintage sort of inspired aprons, and I kept forgetting about it, and I randomly was like looking at her Etsy shop, and I was like, oh, for Mother's Day this would be such a wonderful thing to purchase for myself. It's a very practical thing, is aprons. I want to get in the habit of wearing aprons more. And so I messaged her and I was asking her something about the sizing of it, because my body has changed a bit, as I have mentioned in the past, with postpartum and pregnancy and all of that. And so I just messaged her because I wanted to make sure that the apron was going to fit, particularly with my bust size. And so we were kind of messaging back and forth, and she so sweetly said, I would actually like to just give this to you. And so she sent me an apron, and it's beautiful. So I have worn this a couple times, so it's a little bit less pristine than when she sent it to me, but it has this beautiful thing that loops over the back like that, and then it's got the waist ties that come like this, and it's just so lovely. I really love it, and this fabric is just beautiful. It's so nice. Oh, my hair is ridiculous. The one thing, unfortunately, that I have noticed with this, again, because of my bust size, I have noticed that it pulls on the back of my neck a little bit. So what I may end up doing, and the thing is, this is so impeccably stitched. As someone who also does a lot of sewing and sews a lot of my wardrobe and has made aprons and things before, this is so beautifully done. Like, the workmanship in this is fantastic. It is pristine. So unfortunately, I might have to muck it up a little bit, because I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this part that loops around my neck and split it down this seam here in the back, and then just run it crisscross across my back, get some scraps of fabric from my stash, and then just connect it like down here or something, just because I have noticed that with my bust size, I don't know what it is about it, but it will pull down. It doesn't matter if I tie the waist like loosely or tightly, it kind of just will do the like pull thing, and it's just a little bit uncomfortable, but I love the style of this apron. I'm so bummed that it's not cooperating with me, but I really, really love it. I highly recommend you go check out her shop. She has so many beautiful aprons. It is bad. I want to buy all of them. The fabrics that she picks are stunning. They're just like this classic calico, and I just love it. And I asked her where she sourced some of her fabrics, and she shared the website with me. So at some point I'm planning to buy some of the fabrics from there to make dresses, because they're beautiful. I might see if I can find, if I can take some screenshots of a couple of the aprons that she has and pop it up here, because yeah, she does excellent work, and I love the style of aprons that she has. It's got pockets in it, like, they're beautiful. So if you are in the market for an apron and need some aprons, go check out Sarah's shop. It is amazing. Like, just look at how beautifully stitched this all is. It's so even. I'm very impressed, Sarah. This is the most beautiful apron I have ever owned. But yeah, so enough gushing. It is gorgeous. And then she also sent me a book by, I believe it's Grace Livingston Hope. I realized I already packed it up. I'm such a nincompoop. Should have saved it to share it with you. Which is one of her favorite authors, which I love that. I love sharing and talking about books, and it made me very happy. I'm really looking forward to reading that, but it's going to be after we move, so. But that leads really smoothly into I'm going to do a little tiny book talk, and then just a little kind of miscellaneous life talk, and then we've got to wrap this up, because I feel like I've been talking forever, and I am just a little bit shocked that the baby is still asleep. So, book talk. I have still been very much enjoying my murder mysteries. If you're not aware, I have a separate YouTube channel called Woldenburn Reads that is all about my books. I kind of combined them, and I had separate channels and combined channels and separate channels, and I went back to doing separate channels, and so I just kind of have like my reading podcast, if you will. I decided to kind of take the knitting podcast format, sort of, and use it for talking about my books. So I have that. I'll link it down below for you. But I talk in much more depth about all of the books that I've been reading. But I've currently been enjoying the Lord Peter Wimsey series by Dorothy L. Sayers. I've been reading so many books in that series. And then I have been reading a few more books by Patricia Wentworth, which, if you're not familiar, she wrote the Miss Silver series, which is probably my top favorite murder mystery series. Yeah, it's my favorite murder mystery series. And Miss Silver is probably my favorite detective, murder mystery, golden age murder mystery detective. She's just so lovely and amazing and classy and dignified, and I just love it. So I've been reading some of Patricia Wentworth's other books that are not in the Miss Silver series. So some of them have murder in them. Some of them are more just like mystery, where like something's happened and they have to like figure it out. Sort of like not really a thriller, but like a little more in that vein. So I've been reading some of those books, and I'm so enjoying it. Patricia Wentworth is such a good writer. She's just, I love her. The way that she writes is just so, again, classy, and like that old fashioned, like it speaks to my soul. I love it so much. So I've been reading those books, and then I am continuing to slowly work my way through the Anne of Green Gables series. I'm on the Anne of the Island book. And the thing is, I would have that whole book series read by now, but I've been really trying to read the physical books rather than read them on my iPad, which I've been reading most of my books on since baby Tam was born, which younger me would be absolutely horrified because I'm a die-hard physical book person, but have a baby and that changes things. So that's kind of what I've been reading. Again, if you want to hear more in-depth gushing and talking, check out my BookTube channel. And then, yeah, so like I said in my last video, my knit and chat video, my husband and I were working on trying to buy a house. We're still in the waiting phase. We're supposed to close early to mid-July, and so we're just kind of waiting now for the seller to do some repairs on the house, like nothing major, just kind of some odds and ends. So there's that. So I've been kind of slowly working on, I've been packing up our books because we haven't really been using them that much, and that's an easy, like, sort of first thing to pack up. And then I'm going to start working on kind of packing up some of the decor, like all my pictures and things on the wall. I'm going to start packing up all of my crafting stuff because I can just keep, like, my current work in progress projects out and pack up all my yarn and everything, which reminds me about knit-alongs. Stephanie of the Texas Peach Knits, she is hosting the Texas Peach Knits Fluff Your Stash Mal make-along, and I want to make a kind of like stash fluffing video, but I haven't gotten to it, and I realized what would be way better is I'm going to pack everything up, and then when I'm unpacking it at the new place, then I can do a stash fluffing video, because I'll be unpacking everything and organizing everything, and it'll be better because then I don't have to try and, like, rush as much. It'll be better. But I'm very excited about this knit along, and I think it's an excellent idea to really kind of go through and sort your stash and figure out what do you have, and do you really need to buy anything, or do you actually have all the yarn you need for the next 6 projects that you've been wanting to make this whole time. I think it's an excellent idea. So, yes. And then this upcoming weekend we actually have a trip that we're going to, one of Micah's cousins is getting married, and so we're going to be going to their wedding, and it's a lot of driving. Again, so many long drives this year. But yeah, so that's kind of what's been happening. It's been all of that, and then baby Tam has just, his sleep, I'm telling you, it's exhausting. Right now he started walking. He started walking at 9.5 months old, but he's like properly walking now. He's walking all over the place, so he's getting into everything. He's learning how to climb on top of stuff because he's a very active little boy and he just wants to climb and, like, figure things out. And we don't have a yard here, and so I can't, like, take him outside and just play. Which is one of the big reasons why we're trying to move, is so that we can have some space to kick him outside, basically. Not really, because he's too little to just play outside by himself. He likes to eat dirt and sticks and grass and anything else that he can get his hands on. He's just kind of started eating food. He's still like 97% nursing, but he's kind of been tasting a bunch of different things, which is really fun. And then again, he's been teething like crazy all through May and then the first part of June. And I just checked this morning and I'm pretty sure he is cutting 2 more teeth. He already has 8 teeth. And he just got his 4th bottom one, and I'm pretty sure he's starting to work on another top one. And I'm just like, stop for 2 minutes. I need to sleep. So his sleep has just been terrible. He's been getting up at least pretty much every 2 hours at night, and he just wants to get up and nurse, and so I'm pretty sure he's going through a growth spurt, and fun times. I have become one of those people that talks about how much or how little sleep they're getting. But man, like, I I kind of hit one of my like cap points over the weekend, so I am so grateful for Micah because he just took the baby and watched him for a couple hours, and it was so nice. I got a little nap in. I got to like do some house cleaning because I feel like I haven't been able to do any cleaning or anything or any real crafting, like nothing. I feel like nothing is getting done because the baby's also kind of cantankerous because like he's not sleeping great and he's going through all of these major changes, and so he's just kind of, he wants constant attention from me, which is, none of this is bad. Like I want to make sure you understand, I'm not complaining or anything. Like none of this is a bad thing. It's just one of those baby phases where it's just the tougher phase, and it happens. Like there's always those moments, and then in a couple months from now, he very possibly could become like the world's easiest baby. Like it ebbs and flows. Because when he was, I mean, he's never been a great sleeper, but when he was really little, like he just kind of napped all the time. It's just now he's very active and walking and getting into everything, and so you just have to watch him at all times. But it's fun. I love being a mom. I love being a homemaker, and it's just so nice. Anyway, I have talked a lot. I am going to go ahead and end things here. I'm going to go and try and do maybe a little bit of knitting. We'll see. If he stays asleep, that would be amazing, because then I can do some knitting and just kind of chill for a little bit. But yeah, I hope that you're all doing well. I hope that you're having a wonderful, wonderful June, that you're enjoying this summer weather, all of the light. I'm kind of sad that and on one hand I'm sad, on the other hand I'm happy, because I don't love the super hot heat of summertime. I love the light. Like when it's bright at 5:30 in the morning, it makes my life so much easier, because I have to get up by 6 and make sure that Micah's up in the morning to go to work. So I have to be up super early anyway, and so when it's really dark out, still at like 7:30, it's just hard. So I love the light of summertime. The heat is just kind of part and parcel with it, and so you kind of deal with it, but it's not my favorite. That's why like springtime and fall time are my favorites. Spring probably just slightly more than fall time, just because again, sunlight. But yeah, so I hope that you're having a wonderful summer, and that you are able to get lots of knitting done, and that you're working on all sorts of beautiful projects. And if you're working on summer projects, I'd love to hear about it. But yeah, thank you so much for watching and supporting my channel. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode, and I am looking forward to talking to you again as soon as I can. It might be closer to the end of July. I don't know what's going to happen with the whole moving and packing and everything. If everything goes through, Lord willing, with this house, I'm not sure what sort of time I'm going to have as far as doing stuff, but yeah. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you as soon as I can on the next one. Bye.